Alright, so wanted to do this series on Finger of God series. It's the YODs. I forgot what they stand for, but it's when you have sextiles, two planets that are sextile, but then both of them are quincunx to another body. Another point or another planet could be an angle as well. And for today, I'm just going to show you what the chart looks like that I came up with. And basically, ta-da! There was like so many. I didn't realize I had like 5 yods at least that I found. The first one I'm going to be talking about today is going to be about the focus on Sedna. So Sedna is a big planet, and Sedna is like way out there, as in she has like the most extreme like orbit, and apparently she revolves around the sun every 1,000 something years. Crazy. But anyways, I thought I'd go into that one. So, but I'm going to simplify this, and I'm going to go into a different chart, and you're going to see it that I did a bit of researching, and I kind of just went with something simple. So here you go. So based on this chart, you can see that Sedna is the focal point. When you have the pointing finger up to it's where the quincunx meet, that's where the focus of energy is, because when you have the trine, or sorry, the sextiles happening here, there's a bunch of sextiles actually happening right here in this area right here. Okay, I'm going to make sure it turned into black so that way you see it. Okay, so you can see that. And what's happening there is, first of all, I just want to clarify that if you don't know much about the whole thing, but so when you have sextiles, you have 60 degrees between two bodies or 2 points, and they signifies potential. So it's kind of like it's when you kind of like the energy when you need it. It's kind of like how you usually when there's an external force or external circumstance or people or whatever the event is, there's a situation that causes you to make sure you get it, make sure you use that energy. So there's a bunch of things here. It's really confusing. If I looked into the black, I'm just going to give it some color. I'm going to go back into the main chart itself. Probably the main chart we'll see what it looks like for you guys. So here we go. So back to this chart. So in this chart, you can see the black is pointing at Sedna. Right? I'm going to take off right here. Okay, so Sedna's right there, and it's conjunct Chariklo in retrograde. So Chariklo is a healing, not a fixed star. It is a healing, call that an asteroid. Sorry. So I'm going to consult my cheat sheet here because sometimes it's not easy to remember everything, and that's totally fine. You do that. I create a cheat sheet for myself, or I look into the I actually didn't do that. Chariklo. No, I did not record Chariklo. Nope. That's totally fine. The Chariklo is the what do I call this? Basically the healing process that you go through when you are allowing yourself to heal. So it has a lot to do with grace, compassion, that sort of innerness that you want to be nice and, well, not nice, beyond things. You want to actually heal. And Sedna is really this, they call, basically she's defined as a dwarf planet, but it's more than that. So Sedna, where are you here? Okay, so I'm going to look at the vocabulary that I got from the website by Philip Sedgwick. He said that Sedna is, what do you call this? Appeared about Chile severed. So the story of Sedna is basically she was a daughter of an Inuit, like she's in an Inuit tribe, so it's Inuit mythology, Inuit legends. Her father cut off her fingers because she was trying to grab onto the boat, and she was, I don't know, something about, I totally forgot what it was. It was she didn't want to follow the traditions of her tribe, and so but her father went after her, I believe that's what it was. But a lot to do with what do you call this? Forgiveness, right? So Sedna is bringing about more love into our atmosphere, into our solar system. In fact, because she's so out there that she actually goes into another solar system, which brings about new ideas, new ways of doing things. It's like a huge change on a collective level. But at the same time, on a more personal level, for me, it's my 10th house. I think Sedna was in retrograde. So it's more like I get these ideas that I kind of doubt, and then I believe that especially with the public or people, that's reputation stuff, 10th house, that's ego. I kind of question how to get past certain things in my life that don't make sense, that kind of feel like, okay, I don't know where I'm headed, I don't know where I'm going. So, but, okay, I'm going to use my terminology here as well. Okay, so it's a lot to do with cycles, transitions. On a collective level, it is that. It's about transcendence or victimization. That's the part where it kind of ties in with the 10th house here. It's like, do I do I forgive what's happened? How do I forgive? By really letting go. It's sacrificing in the way where it's like I'm really relinquishing, right? I wrote here, sleeping to awakening, choice, heredity, evolutionary change, breaking off tradition and continual things that just become habit, individually or collectively. Tradition and continual thing, exploring the new, spiritual development, unity, soul's growth, unconscious experiences to conscious growth, transcendent crisis, letting go, old to new, so jolting realization. It's like because of that, her finger got cut off. Correcting of imbalance in your life, off track or on track, sleepiness, no choice but, okay, persistent illness, alienation, unrelenting trauma and suffering, nurturing resentment, unbearable pressure, caught in the quicksand. That's what I found. Some of these things I made up myself because it's like I feel like Sedna is like that. Personal blind spot. Radical acceptance, acknowledgement of bad things and going on from there. Open-heartedness in hell, nurturing of one's sense of humor. These are from a certain website that I got. Fated transcendence, again, a lot to do with karmic, just make choices that we make to transcend and forgive, and to really allow for universal law to become natural in our, because she also has to do with the cycles of life, the cycles of not just generations, but like your long-term cycles. Individually, I would say yes, it has a lot to do with the cycles you go through, where you go ups and downs. So it's like kind of like it represents that. I came up here with that, the fact that when we make certain choices, when we forgive, it comes from the fact that choices are made, and it's the unconscious making those choices, especially as ego. And really, there's nothing to forgive, right? It's just a cause and effect thing. Kind of ties in with Folis. And so non-rational, unlinear, basically, things, acquiring, eliminating sacred stewardship, away from old use, okay? So And I saw from Astro.com that according to them, it's a higher octave of Ceres, so therefore galactic conscious, galactic nurturing. She's like, when you give off and you die, you become food for the environment. What that also represents on a more psychological level is, I believe, this ability to see that death is not the end. It's almost like an absolute relinquishing, right? Because she's so far out. She's like way out. Like she's the farthest of all the other discovered planets, dwarf planets, whatever. Okay. So I used the terms from Judy Hall's urges. She used the word urge. So basically the urge to relinquish, to really let go, beyond Neptune. Where we have to let go of egoic beliefs about communal nature, nurture, responsibility, and natural destiny. So basically an awakened trust or belief or faith. So with that being in my 10th house, it's with Chariklo, there's this healing that comes through with the losses that I would have experienced with my kind of like my fear with the public and being ridiculed and all that stuff. And because if you look at this chart itself, Sedna is square to Orcus. So I have to come to this realization that I have to know what I want. Really, and take ownership of that. That's first house stuff. Really be a leader for that. But with this YOD that we're focusing on, I don't heal until I've come to terms with, because it's normal for me to commit to something, specifically with Juno and Mars there. Juno and Mars are in sextile. When I need to commit to something, and really like right now, just although they're doing the research and all that stuff, I had to, especially pertaining to the 5th house, of things that I have fun with, especially with languages, especially, or informational things like astrology. And when I was a teacher also, I really worked hard for that. But I also had to focus on the fact that it's like I had to realize it's like, even though I thought this is what society wanted, I thought this is what people wanted, I have to come to terms with the fact it's like, because it had to be released, this whole like working hard with the commitment, but sometimes giving in too much of the body. And this is where I remember getting so nervous and getting so, because I have Mars square moon, and I get into like little accidents and like physical things that get affected, especially in the lower area of the body. I used to get super gassy, and I used to hold things in because I was just like, no, I gotta push through because I have Juno in Libra, and it's like this whole, I have to do what people want, I have to kind of work hard for it. But what happened was, eventually I didn't know how to work with that Sedna energy of just let go of that, really let go. And so I had to come to terms with that whole, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care what it really is not about hatred. It's not about resentment anymore. It can happen. It used to happen a lot, where I would just resent everyone in the world, and I just have this sort of extreme anger that would happen, especially with the Mars coming through there. I have Mars square moon, which is like extreme emotions and really exaggerated anger. A lot of resentment too. Because if you look at it too, Mars is conjunct Marfic, and I don't know much about Marfic, but according to my research here, Lambda Ophiuchi. So the constellation Ophiuchus, I don't know how to pronounce that one. So with constellation Ophiuchus, the serpent holder. Okay, so according to Ptolemy, she's like Saturn with moderately like Venus, slovenly, very immoral, shameless, revolting, mean, soars, love, good-tempered, healthy marriage. Okay, calming. Okay, helps her. Blindly good-hearted. Okay. I tried to look up like history on this asteroid, or sorry, this constellation. I couldn't find anything. Oh, it is. Okay. There's the Irk race, which is probably one of my earlier incarnations. 3-planet system Ark can live up to 2,000 years. Their height is similar to that of normal human. They're vegetarian. That explains why I became vegan. By other races, nice people, peaceful, and much respect, presumably having mystical powers. Pale skin, no hair. Sweet smiling people that never stay. So this comes to show where it's like, this ties in with the whole like, it's almost like I had to give in too much of what I would do, specifically with people that I thought, I perceived, people that I was attracted to. This is really Mars thing. People that I was attracted to, even before, I would just kind of give into what they wanted. I kind of just like allowed for it, and then there was a resentment that built up, right? So you have Marfic there, but I also have lust there. So a lot of lust, literally like going on there, where I, especially with guys, and it's just I kind of just gave into what they wanted. It's just temptation and quenchable desire for particular emotions. Okay, so it's basically that's what it is. It's lustful desire. Let's see here. Deep-seated desires. So raw expressions of our passions because no holds barred. It's primal. It sort of like reminds me of Ixion, but yeah, they're kind of similar, I would say. But with this one, it's more about our instinctual needs, like just right. So, and this comes to show like it's right there. But I also have Antares there, conjunct Mars. And Antares is one of the let's go with this one. Where's Antares? I looked into this one. You treat all they come in contact with honor, respect, and love, their ability to experience purity, the window of every soul, understand, okay, they believe in you. Okay, this ties in with what so they're very attractive. Like they're very, apparently like very beautiful, but they believe in the cosmic one. They have this treatment for everyone as equal. What ties in with the Mars thing that I have, where I'm often drawn to guys that are very spiritual, but also kind of dogmatic. They're very like also sporty. Yes, there's that. So with Marfic there, in terms of like what we discovered with Marfic, as in the whatever what it was called. What were they called? Ophiuchus. Okay, is that so a lot of like this spirituality that comes through, and when I'm drawn to, Mars is right here. It's more personal, right? If you look at the personal planets and all them, they're much closer to what you process. When you comes further out, when you see planets in your chart that are further out, they're the ones that are relating to your more subconscious, your older self, therefore your past life, and definitely more guidance. So because these are past life, these are still connections to you today in this form, in this world. So I'm being guided to work with that energy and being realistic with it and saying, why are you drawn to that anyways? So with lust there as well, it's kind of coming to terms with, why am I doing that? Like, why is it supposed to be, what is it, what purpose does it serve? Right, so either you have to be honest with yourself with what those primal urges are. So for me, I come to terms with that a lot, and this is why I do practice sexual transmutation. So using that same energy of like lustfulness and like energy and really turning into something creative, right? Something more meaningful. It doesn't necessarily mean creative as in the arts or music, anything that creates something. And Antares is there to also be a guide. So Antarians are very much like that. So I have to be more open, and that's actually very much drawn to this. Why I'm also, I believe I'm also, this is why I'm considering the fact that I identify, because you can see identify with polyamory, because it ties in with the past that I've had being an Antarian. Right. There's also Jabba here, which is, let's take a look. What did I discover with Jabba? Jabba, new Scorpio. So it's in this constellation of Scorpio. So I don't know much, we didn't get much about this one, but let's take a look at what my sources are saying here. As that goes through, Jabba. That one, there's no Jabba for that one. What about this one? Anyway, so Scorpius constellation, I believe that constellation has a lot of, I call it bright and different bodies or heavens to produce Mars. Okay, that's why it's Mars. Okay, produced by Saturn, partly to that produced by Saturn. So malicious theory, according to Ptolemy. So that's really like Mars energy. Moderately to Jupiter, apparently it says here, commanding military stuff. So I'm not only drawn to that, I'm also drawn to past. This is why I have like a fetish, like uniform, and ties in with the dogmatic side of Sagittarius, right? Being really wanting to be kind of in control and be kind of like, I know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm certain. I'm very drawn to that, but in a very spiritual kind of way, or even like just, yeah, like it's uniforms. I'm into uniforms, so dogmatism with religion. So kind of like what I was really drawn to, still drawn to that, but I understand why that is because it's a feeling of certainty, right? I'm very drawn to that. Again, with the history of Marfic there being more drawn to just being of service, kind of just giving in, and not really service, more like kind of being passive or pacifist like. It's kind of ties in with that as well. You can see that all of these ones here, Marsic is also, I believe, part of the Scorpius. Let's take a look. Marsic. What did I write here? Marfic. Is on this chart though. Okay, as far as it goes far, it goes far as Ptolemy. So Ptolemy is Beta Centauri, I believe, if I got that right. Is Beta Centauri? No, that's Hadar. Alpha Centauri. Trying to remember here. So the Ptolemons are actually Selosians. Alpha Centauri. So it's in the Centaurus constellation. So Selosi. The Selosians or Selosi. Okay. Very, according to this, there's master of science, harvesting life force into crystals. Spirit of equality and justice. So ties in with that. So ties in with that Mars thing there. And then jumping on to, because we're just talking about one specific YOD, and then tie that back into it ties into Saturn. Okay, this is very much like that. This is why I'm drawn to, I can be quite disciplined, I can be quite, if I needed to, with its sextile to Saturn here. It's also sextile to Juno, which is like very committed, very much drawn to that energy. And sextiles, when you look at sextiles themselves, I learned to go with an orb of just 6. Makes sense, it ties in with sex. Like 6, 6, you know, 6. Sex 6, haha. But I also added in here Zanaya's Edda 6 is a draconian fixed star. And I was surprised by this one. Makes sense because it's like I probably had to go through that life. I don't know what happened there, but I was trying to figure out what Zanaya is trying to say here. Zanaya Ada Virginis. So the Zanayas. Okay, let's look at many sources here. No. Nope. If I type in just Virgo constellation, they probably were gray races. I don't know, 2 genders. Okay, race, biomedic. Okay. The Gracely? I don't know. Let's take a look. Some of my sources are a little slow because it's just processing everything. In any case. Okay. So I believe it's just tied into that discipline sort of thing, and then I don't know what, I can't tell. I don't know. I'm not tuning into that kind of stuff. I don't know what past lives are. I wish I knew QHHT. I don't know how to do this one. So I've yet to learn, which is a good thing. There's also Perdix here. So Perdix is apparently, let's go to this site here. So Perdix, technical talents. Okay. So almost straightforward. That I would have technical talents when I put it in. It's because Perdix is conjunct Juno, which is also conjunct Saturn. Okay. In my chart, as you can probably see it. So Perdix is. Okay, so he was a smart student, okay, he invented saws, ingeniousness, okay. So a lot of engineering, mechanical, electronics. So when I put action into that kind of stuff, it can work. Like I used to tinker with certain things. Like if I sort of just took them apart and put it back together, I'm able to do that naturally. Because I take my time and I kind of just like, because I'm curious about what's inside. you know, if you look at the chart itself, if you look at just the planets by themselves, I have Sun conjunct Pluto, a very sort of Plutonian thing, kind of figuring out what's genuine, what's underneath, all that stuff. So it kind of ties in with Scorpio. Again, just to let you know, when you look at charts and you look at the planets and signs and houses are not actually the same thing. They have similarities between all three, but they're not the same thing. Because that way you want to make sure that when you're, if they were the same thing, then why have houses and signs, right? So it doesn't make sense. So each has its own sort of unique signature and energies, unique way of describing things, how to use them, all that stuff. So with Perdix there, a lot of technicalities. I'm very much into, not that much into science, but when I get into it and I get interested in it, it comes through. And that's the sextile thing. But because I do have that investigative sort of nature, we looked at right here, if you looked at where Mercury is, if you zoom right here, Mercury conjunct Uranus, very technical, very scientific, but also because of Scorpio, is very investigative. If you looked at that, this is why, because Mercury rules the third house. That makes sense. Why that expression of those planets has come through in a very technical, very material, kind of like hands-on engineering sort of way. I mean, you just look at the cusp of the third house, it's in Virgo. Right, so it's very earthy, very technical. So, in any case, focusing back on the YOD here, I naturally have that ability to work hard through it, but I'm also drawn to, this is what I'm, because if you combine at the very least Saturn, Juno, and Mars, probably Horus, and also Jupiter, there's just sort of like natural ability to be skillful and just like, and it just sort of a push towards ongoingness, and sort of, it's weird because it's like Jupiter is tied into Saturn, but Saturn is tied to Juno. They're all kind of connected. Everything is really connected, right? So, but Horus there is in perfect conjunction, pretty much almost exact perfect conjunction with Horus and Jupiter. The sextile. I have this hands-on. I believe it's also Horus is a lot to do with, is that Horus? Or is that Imhotep? Horus represents the 5 clairs. I've always been sensitive to, like, with my hands and feelings and senses. And it ties into right there, I don't know why it's not conjunction, but it's probably a distant conjunction, probably it's gone, but it kind of ties in with this area right here, especially when you're looking at it from back into Mercury-Uranus conjunction there, where Lilith actually asteroid is in between there, with Horus square Moon. It's a very sensitive sort of thing, it's sensitive to emotions, especially with Janus Cygnus there in Aquarius, and in the 8th house, it's very like, I have this instinctive drive I know what's happening, like with my senses, specifically physically. When I hear energy, it's like I know there's something underneath them. Like, why do people drop things, for example? Why do people, especially, like, I can tell the difference between something that's loud versus something that's loud. I can sense the energy behind it. It's like, is it anger that they're going through? Is it kind of just they're having fun? You can tell. Well, I can tell. So I guess it's called clair sentience. I didn't really realize this before. I was like, why am I so sensitive? Right? And actually it's funny because you look at Hadar there. I'm digressing just a little bit, but Hadar it's a collective trauma. So I'm just gonna skip that one. I'm gonna go back to the YOD itself. But that ties into why I'm very much hands-on with the Saturn Juno placement there and Jupiter. But Sedna and Edda shows probably also a bit of trauma as well. The traumatics, the discipline that I had to probably go through, probably the military service. Edda 6, because they're draconians. I believe there's something to do with, who are the Edda 6? Iota Draconis. So I don't know. I don't have any information on that, but they are draconians. So I must have somehow experienced that midden Draco. I don't know. Not really happy to think about it that way, but or at least there's some sort of something happened there. Zanaya was Virginis. Let's go to Zanaya. I don't find it. I'm not finding anything on the constellation Virgo. Let's go with Virgo. If I just type in Virgo, they don't perform inductions. So people, the Virgo Porima, the Graysley people, rather scientific curiosity. Their aims are rather. They wouldn't compete anyway. Okay. So something must have happened where they must have come in contact with the Draconians somehow. I don't know. Right, so that shows a lot of the past. I must have been one of those that were conscripted or forced to do hard work. I don't know. Or maybe just what, right? So maybe there's that underlying attraction to discipline, and I have that fetish for uniforms. Perdix is there though, showing that but there's also the super galactic center there, which is what you're apparently drawn to. When you look at I saw Philip Sedgwick describe this as when you're drawn to a certain thing. You look at your chart. If you're drawn to something, it's this galactic center, any of the parts of your chart, it means that you're drawn to that and you're meant to be in the center. Let me go back here. This is super galactic center. So knowing discernment of energy, owning polarities, that's what he says. Are you really attracted to them or is it superficial? Soulmate quest, I got that. We tend to internalize or personalize attraction and soulmateness, when in fact it's the relationship of your ego and your soul. So spirit plus consciousness coming to life. Otherwise projection happens. So, but this is pertaining to Libra itself, which is still in Libra right now. So Galactic Center, the Galactic Center, Super Galactic Center, Great Attractor, and the Shapley Attractor are all about figuring out what's behind why you do things. Right? As it goes into the higher, to Shapley Attractor from Galactic Center to the fourth. They describe this as higher vibrations. So, but it's still strong. So the pull is much stronger with the larger I guess he called it a cluster. But either way, it's just that body, right? So, with the Super Galactic Center there, it's definitely showing a lot of guidance that I've had to go through with, like being able to work hard and staying patient. Jupiter or Saturn conjunct there is seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and like literally like sticking with things, holding through. And with that sextile Mars, that really it's really strong. Zaviava and Markeb, I don't know what those represent, but they're also Virginis, but Markeb was in the Kappa Velorum. It's Kappa Velorum. It was in the constellation Argo. So okay, here I go. Gee, maybe I shouldn't go to that one. Marquette. I don't have that there. So something to do with it's the nature of Saturn Jupiter. Makes sense why it's there. Piety, wide knowledge, okay. A lot of a lot of it is useless considering travel and expect criticism. Steadfast person. Okay, that's placing puts emphasis on spiritual nature of the quest. So very much in touch with grounded spirituality, or rather spirituality through knowledge, through experience and knowledge. Zavia, I would say, would probably be similar to that. So more nature of Mercury. Okay, lesser degree the Sun. Correct weighings gives benefit, again, more some characters. Strength, combative movements, and destructions. Okay, good. Beta Virginis. Not actually the second, it's actually current division. Okay, that's it drives from. So I've yet to go through much of the fixed stars and what they kind of mean for each of them, but I kind of wanted to share this because I was like, okay, this is really cool. I thought it was like, but we also have here, because we're talking about sextiles, it's 6 degrees from Mars. At the very least, the focus is Mars here right now. It's 5 degrees, so we're looking at 6 to at most 11 degrees, or at most 19, up to Haumea right here. Does that mean Alkaid Virginis? Alkaid is part of that. And what I discovered with Alkaid is the Alkaid star is in the Ursa Majoris. Let's take a look here. Okay. Nature of Jupiter. Okay. It's all tying together. Creativeness, perform the business, government, fondness of power. Okay. That explains the attraction. Okay, so Alkaid shows that. Victory over enemies, good fortune. Okay. So it says here if it's negatively placed, there's a negativity or negatively placed. Calamities, disasters. Okay. Fanaticism, sublime. Okay. I didn't really have that, but I mean, it makes sense why it's about authority, and that Mars kind of ties in right there with that placement as well. It still has Mercury still has an effect on it because we have Virgo. All of these are pretty much Virgo except for Xenia, Perdix, and Edisse. They're all kind of more about being passive because they were in Libra. So, but because Libra here is ruled by Venus and also Eris, there's a bit of that unknowingness. Like Eris is in 14 degrees right here, conjunct to Tau Ceti. We're not going to get into that one right now, but it is showing that because it's in Eris, like it's a doubt of Eris in myself, doubt of like not knowing how to be, not to have integrity and knowing exactly how I want it. I mean, this is all about the third house stuff right here, right? That means that I was very much always kind of just going with everybody, what they wanted. I forgot to mention that Echo is actually between Mars and, Jupiter and Saturn here. So I tended to always just copy what people are doing. But I'm learning to embrace that now. It's just like, that's okay. I can copy if I need to. Most people just do anyways. You know, again, there's nothing original, really, if you think about it. The only thing that's really creative is the ability of creativity, which is divine, which is rooted and is connected, all that stuff. Okay. And we go all as far as back as Hecate, and this, I'm talking about the sextile, the degree between Hecate and Orpheus. They go as far back as 19 degrees. Remember, the orb of Mars, the orb from Mars is 6 degrees. So for sextile, it's 6 degrees orb. So 6 degrees would be before that would be 19 degrees at least, at the most, on the other way, and then 11 degrees on the other side. So that means Hecate still fits in here. So it has an influence on this whole sort of like being able to be disciplined and like just steadfast. That's very much like, in having trust in that process. Even though Jupiter is in Virgo, and Jupiter in Virgo is a detriment, or is it it's in its fall. Both detriment and fall, because Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius. So it's because of the Pisces thing. It's in its detriment and its fall. So that means that the Jupiterian energy there is more about working through ambition. I always learned it. I remember this thing was quietly ambitious, right? So the little things, doing the little things bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit, right? Especially when it comes to learning skills, taking for granted skills, being able to adapt to environment. And this is why I do things definitely really slowly. But sometimes, again, there's that YOD there. Opportunities come through, and sometimes I doubt whether I trust people because of the Sedna is also represented by the distrust in potential distrust or continuous distrust, or distrust in patriarchy, especially with men who are very much like, I'm not drawn to that anymore. So it kind of wakes me up, and it's like, okay, so there's this thing that I get, especially when it comes to, this is where the ego helps come in and then say, oh, well, he's just being tyrannical. It's not attractive anymore, right? So, and this is also comes to how the third house is also a bit about relationships, but not necessarily relationships, but more like transmission of how you communicate with romantic relationships, because it ties into the fifth house. So it's, yeah, so that ties in. It makes perfect sense. And then I have to go through that healing too. That it's like, okay, I don't necessarily have to trust who I don't trust. Meaning, it's not about trust anymore. It's more like they do what they do. That's totally fine, right? So that I'm not worried about reputation, but at the same time, I'm creating boundaries. So, yeah, with Hecate and Orpheus there, it's a lot to do with music and magic of music. Because Hecate is magic, right? Hecate is witchcraft. She was the goddess of, well, not just witches, but like creativity, fertility, right? So crossroads as well, being able to choose. Sorcery, the moon, okay? Moon's phases, deepest desires, inner shadow, transformation, intuitive wisdom, orientation towards witchcraft, alternative healing, spiritual. So basically, learn to be a little bit more natural, but with these cycles of trusting how that inner nature, even the inner shadow as well. It's all connected to how I can work with things and how I become more in touch with earthly things. And this is one of the things I'm still learning. But it's because Orpheus is there as well. It's more about, there's so many things about, before we go back into Orpheus, there's so many things about Hecate. It's like the shadow self, self-goodness, growth, acutely attuned sixth sense, okay, matters of the heart, intuition, instinct, being master of your own life, meaning like of this life, being able to know exactly what you want, represents also the Virgin Mother Crone. So in other words, the phases of life itself, understanding that there's a deep understanding of life. You're born, or rather you have this precious thing of yourself. Do you give that away? Who do you give it to? How do you give it, even for yourself? Do you respect that? So it represents blossoming, impregnation, propagation. I learned that from, I forgot who it was. Adolescence, pregnancy, menopause, present, future. So it comes into terms with the whole cycle of life itself. It's really a lot of that feng shui, divination, physicism, astrology, tarot, travel by night. Sorry, I'm just reading through this as we speak. Magic, a very, very much in tune with that, especially when I work through the little things and sort of like, this is why sometimes when I do astrology, I know it looks like I'm doing a lot, but actually I've been doing this little by little. I don't just go jump into all the fixed stars. I don't just jump into going all the information. It's all about really summoning that inner power. That's Hecate. With Orpheus there, it's the ability to not just play, it's not about just music, but communication, disease, loss, opportunity, pursuit, forward, painful, past, touch with it. Okay, being able to touch others with music, yes. Soften the hearts of stone. So it's mournful music. Orpheus is that ability to just like capture your audience. But to do that, I have had to really slow down and learn from my own limitations. It's like, okay, well, I can't always go there. But I take it little by little. I see the limits, I see the roadblock, and I go, it's more like I see the roadblock and I say, because that's Saturn, do I go around it or do I push it? In this case, it's more about pushing it where it's necessary, but sometimes I go around it. But I don't forget that the roadblock is there, because the roadblock is there to tell me it's like, okay, this is okay to take things slowly. Again, healing through being able to realize that sometimes there are people that come into my life, that come into life that are blessings, who are actually there to kind of nudge me a little bit. Because I'm very much drawn to like keeping it safe and secure. Very much like my son is in the 4th house, obviously. So, yeah. So that's as far as we go. I don't want to go too much into detail because the video does get really long and I want to conserve my energy. So hopefully I'll do one for next time. But you kind of saw it here. I don't have time to do the other yods because those are just, I was focusing on just the black one. But in any case, I think I've said a lot already. I hope that kind of gives you a bit of insight into how to look into your chart. You know what, when you look into your own charts, you want to look into little things bit by bit. Don't rush anything. Don't do anything. Don't even look at little bit by bit, literally bit by bit. And trust yourself. Trust that you're being guided to it. So, as usual, I would end this session with just being in the present moment. Always draw your attention to the body. Where does your senses, what does your sense tell you, guide you? You don't have to go anywhere actually, just be. If you have any thoughts looming about, surrender to what the body is doing so that it doesn't itself surrender to attachment to thoughts and the outcome. And follow your breath as well if you need to. Alright, so I hope you continue this practice as we end today's video. I'll see you guys later.